Akshay D'Souza is the Chief of Growth and Insights at Bizom, and he's here with us on India Tonight. Great to have you with us, Mr. D'Souza. You know, for the FMCG sector, rural demand has always been a bugbear. It's been an issue with flat to low single-digit growth in many categories. Now, when you digest the kind of numbers being posted even by Nestle and by Britannia and Dabur, what are your takeaways when it comes to rural demand coming back?
Thanks for having me on the show, Vikram. I think the first thing that you need to understand from a rural consumer is that, historically, that consumer has been severely underserved by FMCG companies, right? And while that has happened, we have seen some companies go all out trying to build distribution infrastructure. The guys now you actually see, guys like Dabur, the guys like Nestle, who are actually growing on the back of a very, very strong rural strategy. So, for example, Nestle is almost quoting now close to 2 lakh villages that they've covered in rural. Dabur added close to 22,000 villages this year. Now, I think that strategy, coupled with winning market share in their categories, is what makes some companies do better than the other. And I think that really is the secret sauce of FMCG. And rural has been that flag bearer ever since COVID, I think, hit us, where companies started focusing a lot more deeper on the rural side.
So add color to that, Mr. D'Souza, because naturally companies have to tweak their marketing, their distribution, sales, their pricing strategies to break through what has been flat or perhaps even declining demand at one point. You did mention COVID times. So which companies have done it well? When you do that comparison, one would be more successful in their strategy than another, which would be evident in the kind of numbers they've reported, haven't they?
Correct. So I think if you look at, for me, the standouts this time were Dabur and Nestle. When I actually look at their whole strategy being built around rural, I think that's where I think they have won it. And not just that, I think winning market share in the categories has helped. When I look at HUL, I think HUL's come undone with its pricing strategy in this quarter. I think the price contractions that happened, I think undid whatever little volume growth that they had. And I think that's kind of hit them on the profitability side.
Has been also, as far as outlook goes, hopes of a good monsoon. The general elections and the kind of, sometimes you see these dole-outs and freebies that the elections bring in, that could revive rural consumer demand, even higher rural wages. Has some of that actually happened or likely to happen, which would be evident in the numbers to come in the quarters that will be reported?
Yeah, so all that you mentioned definitely is a factor. But there's an even bigger factor. And the bigger factor right now is where we are into is summer. Summer remains the biggest trigger for consumption of FMCG. And we're already seeing it across categories from beverages to personal care and some of the other categories also, where we kind of see a big spike in consumption happening in some of those categories. So some of these companies seem to benefit from that seasonal trend and that growth from a very, very warm summer. And I think that continues to kind of play a part. And I think we will definitely see rural reviving in a quarter or so across organizations.
Mr. D'Souza, we also understand through media reports that FII ownership has been trending down in recent times. Is it the higher raw material prices of things like crude oil and palm oil and cocoa and coffee? Would that be the primary factor, or there are other reasons?
Cocoa and coffee is definitely a key spike at the moment. I think you are definitely going to see confectionery companies, all of them kind of, will struggle on the input side for some time. That definitely plays a part. But I think a lot of these FIs also pulling out is also probably, I think, to maximize where their investments kind of go and where they see the kind of, investment trends maximize for their businesses, I think. So it comes from that perspective. But I think barring these two categories, I think most of the other categories are relatively stable now from a commodity standpoint.
Has been the problem that one, at least as far as Nestle goes, that Swiss NGO report, that there is higher sugar content in its baby food that the company sells in developing countries compared to what they sell in Europe. Also that case around Indian masala companies like Everest and MDH. They are under the scanner of the Indian food regulator. How much of this news is going to damage the growth prospects of the sector, you think?
So definitely, I think this is definitely going to play its part. I think from an export standpoint, we're already seeing the international consumer, where there are stricter guidelines than what we have domestically, they're going to take a call on that. However, I think if you look at what Dabur reported for Badshah, I think they grew about 21% in that business, and I think they said they've not been called out. So I think for the guys who've not been called out and who are within the regulated numbers, I think you definitely will see it being a positive spike for them. But for the others, you will actually have to follow regulation and just kind of get your act together on the production side of the business.
This is a very interesting sector. It gives you insights into the economy and how much consumption is growing. Is there a catch-up where rural demand is concerned compared to what we've seen in urban demand? All of that is in play, and many of these factors that we have spoken about are going to come into play, and we'll keep checking in with you. But Akshay D'Souza, Chief Growth and Insights Officer at Bizom, thank you very much for joining us with your perspective on India Tonight. Pleasure having you with us.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.